Bella Rega. So today I'm going to treat the blade of the little slip joint folder that I'm making. So there's nothing to it but to do it. Let's start. So I'm going to do a normalization cycle. I don't know if you can see the screen, but I don't think you can. So I'm going to start the normalization cycle, and while I do that, I'm going to make a stainless steel pouch to minimize the decarb, since it's going to stay at temperature for quite a while. I'm using this stainless steel foil, and let's do that. Now it should be airtight. So I'm 700 degrees. The set point is a 875. I'll put it a little earlier because I want to make sure that it gets to temperature together with the kiln, and then stays at the temperature with the kiln for as long as you need it. So it's about 15 minutes at 875, and then I'm going to do a second one at 795, I think, if I remember correctly. While the kiln is doing the normalizing cycle, I'm going to work on the handle material, and that's it. Let's go. I'm going to use it to do it by hand, because when the oven is on, I cannot use the grinder because I only have one 220 outlet, and I can't install a new one. So there it is, but it's fine. Those are two liners glued together. The reason why I do it this way is because it's the alternative of the proper way to do it, which would be having a block and shaping one block, and then having another block of another material, fitting the other one, then once glued, split in half. That way you have the most symmetry possible. But since I only have liners of these materials, I'm gonna do it this way. It's gonna be the next best thing. G10 is really tough, so I'm starting with a file, and then I'm going to finish with a bird's mouth file, because bird's mouth have, also called the crossing file, has two sides. They're both round. One has a shallower radius than the other one, and the radius changes as it goes towards the tip, so you can actually fine-tune the radius that you're using. And then the way to make it nice and perfect is to check the squareness of the surface on multiple points, and if you are all square and the line is nice and clean, then you're good to go. I always like to fit the outside radius to the inside radius, because that's the best way. It's easier to modify an outside radius than an inside radius. I'm using the draw filing now to refinish the surface. Also, the different scratch pattern allows me to see better what's happening. And looks like it's almost perfect. It's a little high on this side. And in fact, if I was touching more here, and it's perfect. All right. All right. This is ready. I'm going to fit this one, which is the bolster, to this one in such a way. So let's do it. Exactly like before. This is the set point for the end of the normalizing cycle. Let's do that first. So I'm going to put it on top of the oven for just for a second, and then I'm going to let the oven cool a little bit and get to probably 600, and then start it again for the quench. So for the quench, I am warming up the oven, the oil. The reason why we warm up the oil is because it becomes thinner, so the jacket of vapor that creates around the oil, the liquid, when you quench the blade, breaks down a lot faster, so it cools down faster when it's warmer than when it's cold. So the set point has been reached. So I'm gonna put it in. It's gonna soak for 15 minutes, and then at 815 Celsius, and then I'll quench it. We got 17 seconds, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, good agitation, back and forth and not side to side. Now let's hope it didn't crack in the middle. Looks like it's good. So I had to go through a little bit of the carb, but it's nice and hard. Skates like somebody's business. No, now I am going to put it in the oven again for tempering. All right, it's in. Carbon temper, no delay, and we're starting. So to fit the bolster on the main handle material, I use this marker. It's a wax-based marker. It's silver, so it will show on both sides. I just mark the entire surface, and then I move it very gently, pressing very firmly, but moving very gently, because if you move it too much on one side, it will not fit, and same thing if you move too much on the other side. So there needs to be a very precise location, but now it fits perfectly, so I just need to split the two and glue them together. I made this gluing pad very quickly. It's just a piece of plywood that I threw up on the disc grinder, so it's perfectly flat, and I glued two pieces of wood. And since the straight side of the bolster is cut on an angle, I glued the two pieces on matching angles, which makes it like a wedge shaped. So what happens is, pushing up the two pieces, they wedge it themselves into the structure. So what happens is, basically it creates a self-clamping mechanism, and then put a couple of clamps to make it lay down nice and flat, and then we'll glue up nice and flat and fitting perfectly. So I'm going to use this JB Weld epoxy because I don't need a super strong bond. The reason why I don't need a super strong bond is because those are going to be pinned on the structure, so doesn't just need to be held a little bit. All right, so I put this piece of wax paper so they don't stick on the gluing pad that I made, and one is done, and there you go. And I might add a couple of clamps just to make sure. The tempering time has elapsed, so this is now tempered and looks nice and straight. All right, it's been hand sanded to 220. I left the tip a little thick still because in case I need to correct for a slight misalignment when the blade is closed, if it doesn't align perfectly centered. But the edge is down to thickness. I can already see the line of the sanmai, which is very exciting. And from now on, I'm going to hand sand it. Let's do it. You can see probably how thin the edge is already, and but the tip, maybe you can see, maybe not, but it's quite thick, and that is going to be done after I assemble it. I want to make sure that it's perfectly centered before I finish the grind. I'm polishing all the surface of contact because the more polished it is, the smoother the action is. And you guys let me know in the comments if you can hear the neighbors using the sanders. Well, for sure you can hear them, but if with these new microphones that I got, it should be, my voice should be more in the forefront, but it could still be a little bothersome. And in that case, I would revert to voiceovers, which I don't love because it takes a lot of time for me to do voiceovers, but if I have to, I have to. So let me know. You can see it's nice and shiny after the 2000, and now I'm going to buff it, and then the rest I can polish it on the grinder. So this is how it looks after buffing, nice and shiny. Now all these lighting surfaces will run very smoothly. Now I have to do the exact same on the blade. So the two surfaces being mirror polished will slide against each other very smoothly. And this is, I finished the grind. So the tip is nice and thin, edge is nice and thin, and let's do it. So put it together, and as expected, the action is very smooth. And now I need to finalize the continuity of the spine. The spring goes a little lower than the top of the blade, so I'm going to grind everything flat, and then I'm going to do the bottom part. So you can see that it's still too deep, it needs to be about here in order not to touch the back of the spring. And I'm also going to put a little stop pin over there. Let's do it. Okay, so I placed the nailer back on the handle material. Put it with all the pins that I can put. Now I mark it so I can rough it out at the bandsaw. And I'm gonna do the same with the other one. That's got it. So I put it all together and I painted the the edges of the liners because I'm going to now grind it, and I want to barely touch the liners as little as possible because I don't want to modify the shape, and the Sharpie is gonna help me do that. Okay, so I glued the liners to the scales, and now I'm going to put it back together and finish all the surfaces, all the sides with sandpaper, and let's do it. The sides are finished. This is glued on, so it won't move. I centered the pivot hole with the 1/8 drill bit, and I put I think it's 5/8 mil. I set the stop, the drill stop, and let's drill. Well, let's mill. That's it. So at this point, I need to put the knife together in order for me to be able to complete the handle, finalize the shape and polish it. And before doing that, I have to completely finish the blade and etch it. So this is 400 grit. I start with the 400 because I am off the 400 after lapping the surface, which is the most important thing, and to center the blade on a folding knife. This is 1200. And that's how the flats look like. Nice and satin finish. And I'm using aluminum pad to keep the lines nice and crisp. So after gluing all the parts, I'm going to trim them down and also pin them. I can do that on this slip joint because there is no pivoting parts. There are no pivoting parts except the actual pivot, but that's not glued in. So I can minimize the pinning by gluing them in, but I am going to pin them anyway. So I'm going to use a very small ball peen hammer. The way you pin rivets is that you use the ball all around the edges to mushroom, and then you use the other side to spread it out, and that anchors down the pin and makes it invisible. The trick is having no play, but also have a free movement. All right, I think we got it. Yeah, no play. this point I'm not only trimming the rivets but also finalizing the cross section of the knife, which is was left. Very proud of the final plan. And yes, you can file concave curve with a flat file if you have enough practice. You need to be extremely delicate. It helps me doing it this way. Helps me achieve very nice clean lines. Okay, finished trimming and shaping, so now it's up to hand sanding. I'll go 220, 400, and up to 1200 before lightly buffing it. At this point I go to an Aniwa 8000, which for a lot of people might be overkill, but I like my knife to be sharp for real. It's always a good idea to wash the blade before changing stone, because you don't want to contaminate the new stone with the old grit, which is also always left on the knife. And I always finish stropping on a balsa pad loaded with chromium oxide paint. All right, the knife is finished, and sorry for the glove. It's a nice action. Broke in a little bit since I opened and closed it many times. And there it is. Ready to be packed up and shipped.